Can we start, Prakash?
Let's start. Yes. Namaste, everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing sessions offered by Binduji on Bhagavad Gita from Advaita perspective. So yesterday we had the 35th room, and Binduji finished off the room. He had to leave shortly, so he said he might continue the discussion today. So we can discuss the options when Binduji starts. But for few housekeeping things, I'll close the chat and hand raising when Binduji is providing the session. And the links for all the talks are available on the chat in YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, including the book authored by Artemisia, where you can avail it on those links in Amazon. Over to you, Binduji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. Before I start today's class, please let me know whether you want to have the discussion on yesterday's class in the beginning or after today's class or on Friday. The options are there. We have only 3 more slokas to be finished. So both Venkat and Srinivas, if you can chat and let us know. Is the chat off or Prakash?
On Binduji. It's turned on now.
Yeah. So Srini and Venkat, both of you may be having some questions. So should we have the question answer in the beginning or after the end of the class or on Friday? Please let us know on your chat. Okay. What about you, Srini? Friday. Okay. Others? Anybody has any other suggestion?
Maybe a small recap of yesterday, just before you continue, because yesterday was a little bit of rotation combinations, right?
Yeah, that's what I said, it's better to go through the replay rather than recollection. Anyway, I'll be doing a bit
you
of
can
it.
Continue. Yeah, you just continue and then we'll listen to the replay and then Friday we can have the discussion.
Okay.
That might be better for the flow for your, Okay.
Right. So let me do my invocation as usual. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsha Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikridau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murtiveda Vibhagine Vyomavatyaptadehaaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvande Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakrammo Parishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pasyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. So we saw in the last class Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyat Jagrati Samyami Yasyan Jagrati Bhutani Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune. A detailed discussion, the full one lecture was devoted on to this, including the comparison between Shankara, Ramanuja and Madhva. So here the Nisha has to be understood as not the night in our normal parlance. Here Nisha is the agrahanam, is the non-capacity to know the reality. So the ordinary people, sarvabhutanam, Nisha, Samyami Jagrati. So when ordinary people are not able to understand or grasp the reality of the self or Brahman, the Sthita Prajna, Samyami, for him it is awakening into that reality. On the contrary, when the Bhutani Jagrati, that when the ordinary people are in a state of awakening, which shows that they are deluded, they are not able to understand the reality of the empirical world. Therefore, they deludedly think that the world is real, etc. Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune. The Muni, or the realized soul, he sees it as Nisha means Ekatvam, not a what you call Agrahanam there. So here when the second line, the Nisha is not for Agrahanam or incapacity to understand the reality, but he is seeing the Advitiyam Brahma. Therefore, it is like a merger of everything where there is no distinction between the objects. So this is the final qualification given in the entire Sthita Prajna Bhasha. The next 3 verses is virtually a summing up by Krishna onto the final aspects of realization. Apuryamānamacala pratishtam samudramāpāpati pasyanti yadvat tadvat kāmāyam pravishanti sarve sashanti māpnoti na kāmakāmi. So here the meter of the song as the verses have changed. So therefore it is to bring the attention of the listener. Here Arjuna is the listener. He has been listening to the same meter all through from 2.11 Ashocyananya Shochastum. From there he has been listening only in 1 meter. Suddenly Krishna changes the meter. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama yat pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnoti na kamakami. It is to draw Arjuna's attention to this particular verse, which shows that there is an importance in this verse. So let us look into that. Before that, the introduction to the verse by Shankaracharya's Bhashya is like this. Vidushaha tyakta eshanasya sthita prajnasya yatehe eva moksha praptihi natu asanyasinaha kamakaminaha ityetam artam drishtandena pradipadayishyan aha. That means intending to establish by means of an illustration, drishtandena. This meaning that liberation, moksha prapti, belongs to the wise one, vidushaha. Yatehe, to the renunciate, who is of steady wisdom, sthita prajnasya, and has abandoned all desires, tyakta eshana, and not to the one who has not taken renunciation, asanyasinaha, and who hankers after desires, kamakaminaha. This is Shankaracharya's introduction to this verse. But this verse says, Apuryamanam achala pratishtam. Apuryamanam means always being filled up. Achala pratishtam means, achala means steady. Pratishta means remaining or situated. Samudram, the ocean. Apaha means water. So, the ocean is remaining steady even though it is always being filled by water. Pravishanti means enters. The water is entering from all sides into the ocean, but the ocean is never getting overfilled. It is remaining at what you call a state of steadiness. Yadvat tadvat, just so as kamaha yam pravishanti, sarve kamaha yam pravishanti. All the desires, when approach or enter into saha, that person, ta shantim apnoti na kamakami. That person, in spite of this desires approaching him through the sense organs and the mind, he is like the achala pratishtam, like the steady state of the ocean, shanti mapnodi. That steadiness in the abidance of the self is what is called the shanti or the peace or moksha here. Na kama kami, not one who desires to get more and more desires fulfilled. So apuryamanam adbihi achala pratishtam achalataya pratishtaha avastitihi yasya tam. Just as waters from all sides enter the ocean, which, though ever being filled, remains steadily established, unmoved, abiding in its own nature, and unmodified. Tam achala pratishtam samudram apaha sarvata gata pravishanti. So atmastam avikriyam eva santam yadvat tadvat kamaha vishayaha sannidhav api sarvataha ichcha vishesha yam purusham samudram iva apaha avikurvanti pravishanti sarve atmani eva priliyate na swa atma vasham kurvanti saha shantim moksham apnoti. So too, the desires, particularly belonging to the objects and measured by the sense organs, even in their presence of objects, they enter the certain person from all sides. That means shabda sparsha rasa rupa gandha, the touch, the vision, the auditory, the taste, etc. is coming to him through the sense organs. They are approaching him. But since he is abiding in the self, like a steady conviction with which he is abiding in the self, these sense objects and their attraction through the sense organs do not perturb him or disturb him. They merge back into the self alone, because for him there is nothing other than the self. So even the experiences of the senses or through the sense organs is what is referred in the Pratibodha Viditam Matam. That every experience through the sense organ, he is experiencing Atma or Brahman. Because for him, there is no duality. Ekatvam anupashyati. He is seeing only that nature of Atma in everything. And that, because of that, he doesn't get swayed by the senses or the sense organs, which is that. Such a person attains peace or liberation because that is his swarupa. Because he is himself knowing as the self, and he is seeing the self in them all. So when the self approaching him He is not getting disturbed or perturbed by the approach of the sense objects, which are nothing but the same self. So he is remaining unperturbed means he is attaining the peace, and that peace itself is the liberation, because there is no disturbance or no worry for him, or nothing is disturbing him. What about others? Na itaraha, not others. Kama kami. Kamyante iti kamaha vishayaha tan kamayitum sheelam yasya saha kamakami. The desires-giver person who is habitually longing for the objects, that is the kamakami, the meaning of it. Na eva prapnodi. He does not attain it because he is going outward to the objects. His attention is going outward to the objects. This is that Kathopanishad mantra which I always used to quote. That sense organs are placed in our body, turned outward. Parang pashyadi nantaratman. But doesn't see the self within. Kaschiddhiraha pratyagatmanam aikshad avrita chakshu amrutattamichan. The courageous person, one, intellectual one, who is affirmed about his conviction about the knowledge of self, he attains the abidance in the Atma, Pratyakatma, Nama Ikshat. So that is what is being indicated in this verse also. This is the offering of the final decisive creation, criterion, not criterion, decisive criterion of peace, shantim and liberation. This verse shows that a Sthita Prajna is not just a Sthita Prajna, he is one who has been liberated. Because like an ocean, apuryamana, ever receiving inflow of water, achala pratishta, he is firmly remaining unmoved in spite of being in the world and interacting with the world. Avikriya, because unmodified in its own being. There is no vikriya in him. The point is not absence of input, because he is in the empirical world interacting with the world, but invariance of nature. Experiences arrive, the identity does not change. And desires do not bind him. Shankara does not deny the arising of kamas. They enter the objects. Here kamas means not the desires objects. But they do not conquer. Na swa atmanam vasham karoti kurvanti. The knowing of the world or experiencing the world, if you do it as separate from Atma, that is where the duality comes. Aham and idam, I and this. But when I see myself in everything, or there is no differentiation I am making between object to object, because they are all nothing but the same Atman or Brahman. So when they dissolve the duality, and therefore the duality is not there, and therefore what is entering as a sense object is nothing but the self. So they dissolve in the self itself, but not in enjoyment, by identification. Enjoyment is when you have duality. But when you don't have identification of the object which you are experiencing with the self, the identification is what is happening, not a achievement of entertainment. This is the difference between the occurrence and the ownership. The experiences are occurrences, but in the occurrences there is no ownership. Ownership will come when something is other than you, you can own it. But when the other thing is not separate from you, there is no ownership, but that doesn't stop the occurrence from happening. The experiences do occur to such a person. So peace defined negatively and positively. Negatively, to indicate that there is no disturbance or no compulsion from the on the side of this person. Positively, because abidance is fullness itself. The abidance in the self is purnatvam. So purnamada purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate. That is the state in which he is. So Shanti here is referred here itself, moksha itself. And it is not a mood of happiness or peace. It's a stability of being, but not a regulation of appetite. On the contrary, kama-kami, the one who wants to want, habitually oriented to objects because of the expression of duality being experienced as myself and the others. The otherness is there in him. Such a one cannot attain peace. However refined the enjoyment is, because wanting presupposes a lack in such a person. Whereas peace presupposes fullness. Only a person who is full, knowing that he has no further need, can be really at peace. Otherwise, any want will be a turbulence, a perturbance in the mind, and that will be the beginning of unhappiness. With this verse, Shankaracharya closes the complete arc from vigilance and restraint through serenity and stabilization to the natural stillness of fulfillment. And here, peace is not a product. The Shanti is not a product of any, because if it is a product created out of knowledge, then whatever is created has to be destroyed. I will have a destruction also. Whereas here, the peace is a revelation when desires lose their authority. When the desires are not there to create a perturbance in the mind, that serenity in the mind is the peace which is being revealed as the nature of the self itself, not as a product of your desirelessness. So let the desires come as a river into the sea. If they do not move you, then it is fine. They end where they begin. That means it has a beginning in self, and then they end in self. In that fullness that you are, that stillness is the peace, and the peace is the liberation or freedom. Next verse. Vihaya kaman sarvan pumam charati nisprihaha nirmamo nirahankara sa shantim adhigacchati. He is repeating the shantim or the peace here. How? The man attains the peace who, abandoning all desires, moves about without longing, without the sense of mine, and without egoism. Vihaya means having given up. Kaman means the material for the sense gratification. Yaha, he who, sarvan kaman, all the desires, all type of desires, sapuman, such a person, charati means moves around. Nisprihaha, spriha means desires. Nisprihaha means desireless. Nirmamaha, mama means sense of ownership or proprietorship. Mama means mine, the sense of mine, me, mine, that. Nirmamaha means without that. Nirahankaraha. Ahankara means ego, false ego. Nirahankara means without the ego. Sa shantim adhigacchati. He attains the perfect peace. Vihaya parityajya means having abandoned. Kaman yaha sannyasi puman sarvan asheshataha kartsyena charati jivana matra cheshta shesha paryatati ityartaha. So having abandoned, utterly relinquished all desires without a reminder, asheshataha. Sa sannyasi, that renunciate person. Charati means jivana matra cheshta cheshaha. With only activity that is required bare for life's sustenance. He moves around. He is a sannyasi. What is nisprihaha? Sharira jivana matre api nirgata spriha yasya saha. That means free from craving. One in whom even concern for mere bodily survival has fallen away. Yadrichha labha sandushta. Krishna will tell later in this Gita. Accidentally, whatever comes, he is happy with that. He has no desire to go around and get things. Nirmama. Sharira jivana matra akshipta parigrahe api mama idam iti apa abhivinevesha varjitaha. Is free from the notion this is mine. Being without ego and free from even the minimal requisites for bodily life. Nirahankaraha. Vidyavatva adi nimitta atma sambhavana rehita. Iti etat. Without being without ego, free from the self-exaltation, based on learning, knowledge or any such ground. Such a person so constituted or a sthita prajna, sa evam bhutaha sthita prajna, brahmavit shantim sarva samsara dukkha uparama lakshanam. Shantim, he is defining shanti as sarva samsara dukkha uparama lakshanam. Nirvana akyam, called nirvana. Adhigacchati prapnoti, characterized by the complete cessation of all worldly suffering. He becomes Brahman himself. Brahma bhutaha bhavati. The Siddha Prajna is nothing but Brahmavit or Brahmajnani. So, this passage serves as a definitive portrait of the Jivan Mukta. Vihaya sarva kaman. Total, not a partial one. Not a selective abandoning. I will have only sattvic things. Nothing called rajasic or tamasic. Not even that. That is why Krishna said in the beginning, Nistraigunyo bhavarjuna. And it's not a moral pruning where you say that this is morally right, this is not morally right, wrong, like that. That is the way in which it has to be understood, that there is total renunciation. Asheshataha kartsyene, without even a reminder or even a shadow of that I was once upon a time like that, not even that memory should not be there in the person. Even if it is there as a memory, the mind can be tempted back into the action. That is the most difficult aspect of it. We might have abandoned so many bad habits and qualities in our life. But if we still have a memory of that in our mind, that can pull us back into the world, into that enjoyment again. That is why Asheshataha is very important, without even a shadow of it. What is abandoned is not action, but the desire as a driver of enjoyment for life. But life continues without claim. Jivan matra cheshtas sheshaha. That is, eats, walks, survives, all those things which are necessary for the body maintenance. Those things continue. But only as much as bare life is sustained. No luxuries, no desires to, elevate even the bodily sufferings when it happens. Therefore, there is no investment and there is no narrative which should be, adjusted. Therefore, life continues but without ownership. The triple negation, nisprihaha, nirmama, nirahankara. The three negations given by Shankaracharya is deeper than what we can think. Asheshataha is what he has told. That without even a shadow is the total renunciation. But he is saying that should be nisprihaha. Not even a craving for survival. And no sense of mind means even regarding that this body is me. That is nirmama. Nirahankara. No self-importance. Even if it is based on the Upanishadic knowledge, etc. What will these three do? These three will eliminate the appetite, the possession, and the identity inflation. Nothing psychological remains to bind. Why this person is called Brahmavit? Because Brahma Bhutaha is the word used by Shankaracharya. He is not a knower about Brahman, like the Upanishadic knowledge he has. So he is a Shastravit. But here he is using the word Brahmavit. Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati is a Upanishadic mantra. One who has the knowledge of Brahman knows it that he is Brahman. He is not separate from Brahman. It is not that Brahman is there, I know what is Brahman. Not that way. But one established as Brahman itself, Brahma Bhuta, is established in that knowledge has become his reality. Therefore, knowledge has destroyed the knower-known divide. There is no subject-object divide or the knower-known divide. Because all these things are exhausted for such a person as a function. The knower-known divide is not there for him further, even for deployment. So what is the Shanti and Nirvana Shankaracharya mentioned about? He defines Nirvana negatively and finally that Sarva Samsara Dukkha Uparama. That means complete cessation of all worldly suffering. That is the Shanti or Nirvana. It is not an attainment of pleasure what we otherwise are familiar with in the empirical world. That is not what he is indicating here. It is not a bliss as an experience when we say that I had a momentary experience of bliss, not even that, but an absence of all binding conditions. That is why the peace is not achieved as a means, but it is recognized as the nature of oneself. So when nothing is wanted, nothing is owned, and nothing is claimed as I. What remains is not peace as an experience, but peace as one's own very being, and that is nirvana. And the final verse, Seshat Jnana Nishta Stuyate. That Brahmavit, or the state of a Brahmavit or Brahmabhuta, that is being exalted here in this last verse. Esha Brahmi Stitihi Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati. Stitva Asya Andakale Api Brahma Nirvanam Ruchati. Esha, this Brahmi Stiti, the state as Brahmavit. O Partha, O Arjuna, na enam prapya, this having achieved, na vimuhyati, never is one bewildered. Asyam andakale stitva, at the end of being situated in the last moment of his bodily life, api Brahma Nirvanam Ruchati. He is at the gate of the spiritual kingdom of God. Brahma Nirvanam means, Nirvanam means Nirgata. He leaves even the idea that Brahma as his Swarupa or his spiritual kingdom. He is no more a transactional or a bodily entity anymore. So, O Arjuna, this is the state of being called in Brahman, Brahmi Sthiti. One does not become deluded after attaining this. One attains identification with Brahman by being established in this state, even in the closing moment of his life. The final closure statement of chapter 2 is with the definition of the Jivan Mukti culminating in Brahma Nirvana as a Brahmi Sthiti. Shankaracharya comments on this. Yesha yatokta Brahmi Brahmanis bhava iyam sthitihi sarvam karma sannyasah Brahma rupena eva avasthanam iti etat. That is, this, just as explained, is the Brahmi state, Brahmi Sthiti. The condition that belongs to Brahman, or abiding as Brahman alone. Sarvam karma sannyasa. Having renounced all actions. Because there is no doership, no enjoyership. So all actions have no ownership there. E Partha, na enam sthitim prapya labdva na vimuhyati na moham prapnoti. Sthitva asyam sthitau brahmyam yadaoktayam andakale api अन्ये वयसे अपि ब्रह्म निर्वाणम ब्रह्मा निर्वृतम मोक्षम richati gacchati. O Partha, having attained this state, one does not become deluded again, nor does one fall again into the confusion. Abiding in this Brahmi state, as described, even at the final moment, even in the last stage of the life, one attains Brahma Nirvana or Brahma Nirvati, liberation. Kim u vaktavyam, what more can be said? Brahmacharyat eva sannyasasya, yavat jivam, yaha brahmani eva avastishate, saha Brahma Nirvanam richati. One who, renouncing from the very stage of Brahmacharya, abides in Brahman throughout life, he indeed attains Brahma Nirvana in this life itself. Unambiguous conclusion. That's all what we can say. So what is the Brahmi Sthiti? There is no ambiguity on that. It is not a mental state. It is not a meditative achievement. It is not a moral excellence. But it is a Sarva Karma Sannyasa plus Brahma Rupena Avasthanam. That is total renunciation of all actions. By identity, there is no identification. And an effortless abidance in the Brahman. All actions fall away because the agency has been dissolved. There is no more agent there. And the irreversibility of knowledge. Na vimuhyati. No relapse of delusion to such a person. Na moham prapnodi. No return back into ignorance. Why? Because knowledge does not modify the mind. What it does is it dissolves the error that sustained the samsara. Knowledge removes the ignorance which was the cause for the samsara. And there is nothing left to regress upon or regress to. Liberation is not a post-mortem. Andakale api is a very crucial phrase. Liberation does not depend on the time of death. That is the word api used. Api means including or even that. Even if it is in the last minute of the life or last moment of the life, if one is able to achieve this, for him there is no rebirth. And there is no body for him which he is abandoning. Because all association with the body has dissolved. Doership, enjoyership, everything has gone. That is why the Antakale api, including the last moment. Kimu Vaktavyam is a phrase which Shankaracharya used in his commentary. What can be said? What more can be said? There is nothing more to be said about such a person. If liberation is assured even when the knowledge is gone in the last moment, then how much more certain is it for one who renounces early from Brahmacharya Deva and abides in Brahman lifelong? For him, the Andakala or the last moment has no relevance. Because the moment he has abiding in the Brahman, he has transcended space and time. So from grief of Arjuna starts the enquiry. And enquiry leads to discrimination. And that discrimination is developing the renunciation in the mind. And renunciation, when takes place with all senses and the sense objects, the abidance in the self becomes natural. And once the avoidance becomes the Brahmi sthiti, such a person is Brahma Nirvanam Richati. He goes to the Brahma Nirvana. There is no reminder left. Nothing of his is left from his point of view. But from others' point of view, such a person, a jnani, has taken samadhi or he has gone. We continue to be in the ignorance and say that such and such a person attained liberation. But from his point of view, there is nothing left to be left behind. So this is not a state to be entered, nor a goal to be reached or achieved. When all doing is relinquished and all becomes silent, that remains unchanged, ever present, is the Brahman alone. That abidance is the liberation or mukti. So I'll stop here. I want to do a synopsis of the second chapter completely, for which I don't have time now. I will do that tomorrow. Let us do the question answer for yesterday and today now. And then tomorrow I'll do the synopsis of second chapter, followed by question answers and Friday question answers, so that I can start third chapter from Monday. That is my plan. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavada.
Thank you very much, Bindoji. Open the chat and hand raising. Srinivas is coming up.
Yeah, hello, namaste. Hello.
No, Namaste Shri. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay.
So Bindoji, at the start of the session, actually that was my question. You already said it, but I can't recollect that. So what does it mean that the nisha of the jnani? What are we supposed to understand that when that part? You said something I cannot recollect.
Nisha of the jnani is where he doesn't see anything other than Brahma. Yatrana anyat pashyadi anyat shrunoti anyat vijanadi. That is the state in the night also. Darkness, pitch darkness. We cannot make any differentiation, no? All we see is the pitch darkness. Same way, a jnani is in the vision of Brahman, Sarvam Kalidam Brahma. So he sees only Brahman everywhere. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. Krishna says later. That is the state of the jnani, and that state is referred as his Brahmanisha, or the darkness, unified darkness, which is equal to the state of Brahman. Because even if you say that everything is light, then the question will be that there is some vision which is of the light. It is not a vision. It is an inner experience where non-duality is our reality. Whether we call it as deep sleep or Brahmajnana, or whether we call it as Brahma Nirvana, there is no individuality, no externality. That state is what is called the Brahmanisha.
But in the Jagrat also, it's the same, right? It is Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. The Jagrati of the Jnani and the Nisha, both are having same attributes. Then.
That is why when the when the ignorant people are in the Jagrati, he is having his darkness, or his vision is he doesn't see multiplicity. And when the whole ignorant crowd is in the sleep, it is waking for him. It is waking means he is woken up into his own reality of the self, or there he sees self-abidance.
Okay, so then can we say that Nisha is like a pratiloma, like kind of thing, and Jagrati is the anuloma kind of thing.
Yeah, you can say
Okay,
that.
okay. Thank you, Bindaji. That was my question. Yeah.
Thank you, Srini. Yes, Venkat, it's all yours.
Yeah, Hari Om Vedaji. This
Hari
is,
Om.
I think, the chapter 2, as you said. I don't know what else is there beyond this. This chapter seems to cover almost everything possible. So we'll see what else is there, because you covered it so profoundly, this particular chapter. So Binduji, I want to sort of clarify certain things that from the prior classes.
Sure, definitely.
So I'm trying to build the context that, that verse 65, prasade sarvadukanam hani rasyopajayate prasanna chetasohashu buddhi paryava tishtati. That how to bring the that buddhi to unwavering state. So try to now validate that with that experience, right? In the Bhashya, way Shankara put it is that paryava tishtate akashamiva samantat avatishtate atmaswarupenaiva nischali bhavati ityartha. So this buddhi, if you look at the buddhi operating in the world, it has this unique capacity of simultaneously working on all senses. Even in a crowd, say if your son calls you or your wife calls you, it picks up and exactly locates the person. And it has this capacity to hold the entire, feed in one place. It has got a hold capacity. That is the bottom line. And hence able to capture what is required in the operating world. If the same buddhi directed to the akasha, that vastness of akasha, then something unique happens where the holding of into that vastness, this buddhi loses the hold itself. What it is trying to hold in the objective world, now akasha, something unique switch over where it loses the hold and relaxes itself into that resolved vastness. It's not that buddhi is absent, just that holding to process in the world of objects, inverted with the same hold capacity applied to akasha, that vastness, it simply dissolves. Is that the nischali bhavati ityartaha?
Not that way. What happens is that when such a person devoid of, when the placidity comes into the mind, his attention is not anywhere else. He has even dissolved the buddhi as a knower of that placidity. That is why the last but third, that Apuryamana Machala Pradishta, that verse you have to compare with this one. The Shanti Madhigachati. Such a person, Nischali Bhavati. That these words are indicating that. Like the river flowing from all sides, how does he remain perturbed and steady? That is the velocity of the prasada, what is being talked about in the 65th verse. And when it is saying that he becomes firmly established in the self, when he is established in the self, all duality dissolves. When all duality dissolves, there is not even he and the body, he and the intellect, or nothing of that sort. All that is remaining is that unwavering peace or the disturbance free state of awareness. That is what is indicated.
No, this is perfect, Binduji. I think that reflects that revelation of peace itself is that position of collapse. What used to be a holding buddhi now loses its own shape. That may be the right way to put it. It loses the shape, and simply, we can't put it in words. It's sort of akash. Maybe the akash is the closest for that kind of position of buddhi. There is no position of buddhi per se. So it simply collapses, leading to whatever you're holding on to. Once the pressure is out, the relaxation is a result of it. Now, I want to put certain things in context. Now, the four aspects of chitta, mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Now, such a person operating in the world, can we now put all this in context, how these are utilized, maybe the utility of this? Ahankara, stop associating, only the I am remains, no association, just that utilized for conversation. Is that because that aham idam is gone? Hence, ahankara is pure ahankara, but you can't say it is gone. It is simply a functional I am. Is that the way to characterize ahankara here?
No. There are two ways in which you have to appreciate this. One is such a person's inner experience, where there is no mind, mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, or the body, or nothing is that. All that is there for him is the consciousness or awareness or Sachidanandam Brahma. He is not a doer nor an enjoyer. Therefore, doing and enjoying everything from the point of view of ahankara or even a bit of that cannot be attributed to him from his point of view. He is not even living.
Yeah,
he is not even living.
Yeah. No, there's no attribution, Midhoji, but yes. I want to put that context, all this four of them in context.
No, the other person who is not a realized person sees this person talking reality, talking the details, yet appearing to be interacting in the world. So the question for that person will come, how does such a person interact in the world outside if he do not have ahankara? Is the question asked by the non-realized person who is seeing the realized person. So there is a first-hand experience from the realized person point of view and a third person or a second person narrative by the unrealized person seeing a realized person. These two should not be confused when we are asking the question. You should ask from whose point of view. Then try to answer it or try to ask the question.
So, see, there is a knowledge that these are the four aspects of manas, right? Manobuddhi,
that is an explanation given for the purpose of the duality.
Okay. Now, No, see, from this aspect, when you try to explain how the whole experiential world is, there is no experiential world in first place in that case.
Yes, no, it is not there.
Okay. So, yeah, I think I'll leave this now. We'll continue to this yukta, Biduji. The second part is the yukta is given. Yukta is this to do with the sakshi and intelligence integration. What is yukta? Because there is a functional availability to perform minimum functions. You call it whichever the way it is. That yukta means chayukta bhavana, that nasti buddhi rayuktasya, that negation is told. But what is yukta as per characterizing it? Is this a sakshi buddhi integration? That was the question.
No, he is controlled his mind, or he has a one who has, what you call, no activity of the mind, body, or the mind, intellect, etc. He has yukta, means become one with the self, or he has, when he is no more desire or any activity of that type which is requiring duality, he is now in a state of peace, and the peace is not separate from his own swarupa. That is the bliss, or the peace is his own nature of the self, which he has united now with. Abiding with the self or united with the self. That is the yukta word used, should be understood as.
Okay, so yukta is the process applied. After that, it has become irrelevant.
Irrelevant, yes.
Okay, I think that's clear then. Give me 1 second, Binduji. I'm just trying to browse through my notes. This Yanisha Sarvabhutanam, I think the brilliant way this is being put up, because you can't explain this with a logic.
Yes.
It is double inversion. Even you try apply a method of logic, then the other verse fails. If you apply the logic here, the other fails. So no point doing it. Only thing I can channel this as when Buddha was enlightened. Somebody asked him, how do you see this? He said, everybody is Buddha. Who is sitting in front of him, I'm awake and they're sleeping. That's all he said. So that's the most that can be said.
Right.
Here it is nicely put it in both dimensions. I think purposefully look like. I'm moving on. Give me 1 second. This Antya Pramana. So there is this Pramana was used in this Yanisha verse. The Pramatru and whatever Pramana is applied once the acquisition of the nature is there, then there is no Pramatru, none of that. Anyway, even Shastra Pramana, all that become irrelevant. Is that because...
Yeah, yes. Even Shastra becomes not needed because it has completed its purpose. Then there's no carrying the boat on the head and walking in the shore, no. Having reached the shore, you don't carry the boat on your head.
Okay, then it's clear, Binduji. There's no Pramatru in first place. Okay. So this today's discussion, you nicely put it, the presupposed fullness, and peace is just a revelation out of presupposed fullness, that purnatva, that samadhana, is what is reflected as a peace, as a revelation. So this fullness is what is compared to that samudra, right? Here, samudra is irrespective. It doesn't get affected with all that is all kind of rivers getting
Right.
in. Okay. So is the peace. So is the love. All those nature is explained is all just the revelation. That's a way to.
Right.
Okay. There is one Bhashya part of it, that Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Somewhere I explained this Brahma Nirvana versus Brahma Sthiti. Who has to continue with Brahma Sthiti, and keep that Nididhyasana continuously? Is Nididhyasana equated to Brahma Sthiti?
No.
And no need for Nididhyasana is Brahma Nirvana, or both are same?
Nididhyasana is a process, whereas Brahmi Sthiti is the culmination where Nididhyasana fructifies into realization of your own nature. See, when you do Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, Shravana is the first time you are hearing about it. Manana is when, having heard it many times, you logically try to turn inward and apply to your own nature, to finding out what is that I am, not the body, the mind, the intellect, Mano Vidya Hankara Chitta Ninaham, all those things which we do, we will know that the subject-object dichotomy is not there. And then when we turn inward, till we realize that my nature is that Satchitananda, or consciousness or awareness, till that time Nididhyasana will be a process. But Nididhyasana will stop the moment the Brahmi Sthiti fructifies. Thereafter, the Shravana is immaterial, then Manana is immaterial, the Nididhyasana is immaterial, because they all have done their purpose. And they are all in duality. In the Brahmi Sthiti, when you are Brahmavit, you are that, where you don't see anything, hear anything, listen anything. There is nothing other than that self or consciousness, awareness, which you are abiding in. And that is the Brahmi Sthiti or Brahma Nirvana.
Yeah, that's clear. I think that Nididhyasana is just a yukti. Okay. Then this has this instructive part, that Jivana Matra Jeshta Shreshtaha, Sharira Jivana Matra Kshipta Parigraha Epi. That means all these are an external viewpoint, right, Binduji?
Yeah. They're all from external point of view.
Okay. I think that clears up a lot of it. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Ingrid. You can still, tomorrow also we can, if you have anything coming up, please don't hesitate. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, anytime you can ask.
Sure, Binduji. Thank you, Binduji.
Thank you, Ingrid. Namaste, SK.
Hi, Bindoji.
Hi.
So, Bindoji, in this Brahmavid state, again, from the perspective of that Brahmavid person, that now he will not have any vichakshana between dharma and adharma, right? Bindoji, because, when one is seeing everything as the complete thing as Brahma, that entire thing would kind of collapse. So again, I understand that from him, his own actions, I think dharma, it will only be dharma because he's seeing things in a certain way. But there are, like, say, in Mahabharata we have this situations, right? Like in the Sabha and like everywhere, where even passivity would be considered adharma, not doing that action or intervening. So I don't know if my question is clear. Like, wouldn't that become a problem because this Brahmavid person would not be able to do anything to stop some adharma from happening, right? Like when this entire thing has collapsed.
It is not that way, SK. Look at Krishna. He is a realized person, or he is the Guru, Jagat Guru, who is teaching us all these things. What did he do? He was untouched by anything that was happening in and around him. That is because of his knowledge and abidance in his own nature all the time. He never needed to be remembered or realized or separately told that I am Atma, I am from his point of view. Now the same is achieved by people like Janaka, who is a king. There are people who have been otherwise examples given in many of the stories which we have read in the books. All of them have continued their life in the profession or in that activity what they were doing. Some were yogis, some were, like Vasishtha and all, they were doing the yajna, etc. They continued to do their activities, apparently from other point of view. But what is their internal reality? They are continuing, they are abiding in that true nature of the self. That which doesn't have any doership or enjoyership. From the point of view of the realized person, that person. But from an unrealized person, he is doing what he is continuing to do. So that is why it is very difficult to differentiate between a person who is realized and a person who has not been realized from the activity or the way in which he is behaving. It is a knowledge of the person who is realized, not an activity of the person who is realized. After realization, he has no doership. Therefore, he is not doing any action from his own point of view. But the body which is appearing to be there for others, it is continuing the creation. Now, take an example of a person who is in a dream. He has now woken up. Now, does he have any role to play in the dream again? The dream, assuming the dream is continuing. For him, it has ended. But those who are in the dream and the dream world is continuing because they have not woken up. So the person who has woken up from the dream has nothing to do in this thing. But the people who are in the dream will see him in the dream because he was in the part of the world created for the dream. The dreamer in the dream continues, but the dreamer, when he woke up, lost the feeling that I am a dreamer and the dreaming experience. He is in a waking. Same way when we wake up from this waking to the Brahma Nirvana or the Brahmi Sthiti, we will not have anything to do with the dream or the waking of this world. But those who are in the waking or those who are in the dream will continue to experience us in the dream or in the waking. We have no body, we have no death, we have no aging, we have nothing. The body seems to be continuing for others, but from his point of view, the knowledge has eliminated the identification or the individuality totally. Therefore, all that is there is that consciousness or awareness, what is his true nature. Therefore, it is not his true nature, it is the true nature of the world or the whole reality in which the waking and the dream comes up.
Yeah. So is this even a word like this dharma, dharma, vichakshana? I mean, because
Yeah,
see, so in that sense, when everything is equal, now this entire dharma, dharma will also collapse, right? Like
yes, it will
purely
collapse.
from his.
His point of view is no more there. I told you, no, after crossing the river, we don't carry the boat on the head. Same way, after having realized what we are, we don't carry the body and the body's dharma and the dharma, etc. Not even Upanishad or Vedas or even the word Atman or Brahman.
Yeah. So that is what is confusing for me, Binduji, because see, Krishna actually recognizes dharma, right? Like and adharma. When, like say, because when he is making that argument to Arjuna, he is clearly telling and making an argument to pick up that bow for fighting against adharma. So is that like only what he is doing to just from Arjuna's perspective, but from his perspective, he doesn't see even Duryodhana as adharma, like,
That's what he said. That's what he said. No, you will, when we go to the later chapters, we'll say, you are seeing them, but in my view, they are by their birth, their death, everything I can see the whole picture. So that whole thing is that appearance is known to me because I am the one who is the consciousness in which appearances are happening. And therefore, they are not real from my point of view. Since you are seeing them, you act according to what you see.
okay, got it. Okay.
Thank you, Ski. Anybody else? Or else we can meet tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll do a synopsis of the entire second chapter so that you get a bird's eye view of how we proceeded from the Ashochan Anya Shochastvam, Krishna's advice, to the last verse, Brahmi Sthiti. And what are the important verses? What are the important words of Shankaracharya, which we should remember in the Bhashya? That will give the foundation for the chapters which are going to come up, because this is the foundational chapter for Bhagavad Gita. Once you are completely understood this aspect, only then there won't be confusion what Krishna says in the other chapters. If you forget anything what Krishna has said in this chapter and take those verses in the other chapter in isolation, it will be total confusion. That is what happens when studying Bhagavad Gita. So I'll give a synopsis, remember that and keep that as a fallback whenever we have doubt in other chapters. Okay? So we will see tomorrow then.
Yes, thank you, Bindoji. Thanks everyone for coming and for those who came up and asked questions. So tomorrow we'll continue, same time, 8:30 p.m. IST. Thank you, Bindoji.
Thank you, Prakash. Thanks, Srini, Venkat, SK. And thank you all for listening patiently. We will do the synopsis of second chapter tomorrow. and then Friday question answer. Monday I will enter the third chapter, Karma Yoga. Hari Om. Good night.
Good night. Hari Om.